Welcome back to another episode of Towards a Better Nigeria. My name, once again, is Monyoluwa Oludevis. Last week we spoke on the great inventions of Africa, and I promise today we will continue that same trend. You might be surprised at what has the great African invention got to do with making Nigeria better. Let me remind you that if we can reproject the way we think about ourselves, we will be able to change our actions. And change our actions means improving the continent as a whole. Last week, briefly, we spoke about the hygiene, the sport, and the beauty, the products that we produced under them. Today, we're talking on another three topics: transportation, medical, and politics. What are the things under transportation that came from the ancient Africa? If you could remember well, whether you studied your Bible, your Quran, or any other book that you've ever read about the slaveries in Africa that came and when they were living, and we tried to pursue them to River Nile, you remember that the Pharaoh and his army, they used what we call the chariot. Chariot is like a cart with a wheel, and it is being attached to a horse. The horse will drag it for movement. Now, the number of horses that you attach to the cart will determine the speed of the cart. So if you attach one horse to it, these are the medium class people, they attach only one horse to their cart, it moves. If you attach two horses to the cart, it moves faster. So the number of horses you attach to the cart determines the speed of the cart. And that was what formed the basic of cars production. That's where when you talk about the engines of a car, they refer to engines of a car as 2 horsepower, 3 horsepower. And the number of horsepowers, the higher the horsepower, the higher the speed of the car. So those horsepower technology or language came from the ancient chariot movement of transportation. We also invented the boats and the canoes. These are the things that came from Africa as our means of transportation. As I'm speaking to you today, under the pyramid of Egypt, there is a canoe there, right there under it. And the surprising thing is, how does it get there? That means the canoe was there before the pyramid was built on top of it, because there's no way with the construction of pyramid the canoe cannot enter the pyramid now. But that means the canoe has been there before the construction. So these are the things that came from Africa under transportation. Under medical, the first surgical operation in the whole world was performed in Africa. First high treatment was performed in Africa. It might not be the same way as we see it today, but the history says the first high treatment was performed in Africa. Antibiotic was invented in Africa. Prosthetic legs was invented in Africa. And the act of human embalmment was invented in Africa. In those days, they called them the mummies, which has the ability to preserve human for thousands of years without decay. These are the things, few things that I can mention that came from Africa under medical. Politics, which is the most interesting one. Under our political structure in Africa in those days, the world first police force was established in Africa. The world first tax system was established in Africa. The world first judicial system was established in Africa. And surprisingly, they refer to Africa as a black continent. I will be here boldly to tell you that the first street light came from Africa. Structurally, politically, Africa was better, Africa was strong, until we decided to replace our system with what others introduced to us. Instead of us to marry our civilization with our own tradition, we replace our traditions with our civilization. Well, today is not how to, we are not talking about the causes or what led us to where we are now. We are enlightening ourselves on the great inventions that came from Africa so that our sons, our daughters can walk on the street with their heads up high and said, I am proud to be Africa. Because these are the things we've done in Africa that shaped the world to the way we know it today. That will be the end of today. Next week again, Monday, join me as we speak on another aspect of the great inventions of Africa. Until then, have a nice week ahead. Thanks from all, and bye for now.